Marcus Smart is mad at people who still think he's not the right point guard for the Celtics. Does he have a point? No pun intended. Let's get the full quote here by Smart so we can contextualize what he means. In a sit-down interview with Adam Himmelsbach of the Boston Globe, when asked what he proved this season with the Celtics as their lead point guard, Smart said, "I think I proved a little bit of everything. I hear the talk about he's not a true point guard and this and that, they need a star point guard. We've had star point guards, and yet this so-called non-point guard is the only one that's led them to the finals." I think that right there says enough. There's a lot to unpack there. First, the idea of a true point guard has a very loose definition. Most people assume a true point guard is your floor general, a leader type on the court that can manage the pace of a game and run offensive actions for you efficiently. At a very high level, think of guys like Chris Paul or Kyle Lowry. Or on the lower end, think of guys like Ricky Rubio or Tyus Jones that play the role of floor general off of the bench for their respective teams. All these players can create for others, but they are also masters in the art of pacing a basketball game, helping their teams maintain leads, all while not turning the ball over. In the 2022 NBA playoffs, turnovers were Boston's fatal flaw. Among the final 4 teams in the playoffs this year, the Celtics were first in turnovers. Through 24 playoff games, the Celtics were 2-7 when they committed more than 16 turnovers in a game, and were 13-2 when they committed 15 or fewer. That is a staggering difference, and ultimately, it's what helped the Warriors pull away in the finals, winning the turnover battle in games 5 and 6. Draymond Green said as much recently.
Number one, game 4, I figured out if you sent most of those guys left, it was not good. And so that I thought was a huge adjustment for us. And like, they were so dangerous going right, and they were just getting us in the right slot, driving the basketball. You have to come over to help. They're kicking it out, and now your whole defense is broken down. And that's what they were doing. And so I'm like, I'm gonna try to force them left, see what they do. They start dribbling that off their foot and like all type of stuff. So I'm like, okay.
Jason Tatum echoed Green's sentiments, saying that the Celtics are a hard team to beat when they don't turn the ball over. It's hard to disagree. But Smart isn't the guy to blame for the Celtics' turnover problem. He averaged 2.5 turnovers a game in the playoffs, all while averaging almost 6 assists. Compare that to Tatum, who averaged nearly 7 assists a game, but also committed over 4 turnovers while doing so. In fact, Tatum set a playoff record, becoming the first player in NBA history to record 100 turnovers in a postseason. Or consider Jaylen Brown, who averaged less than 4 assists a game and still committed over 3 turnovers per contest for the Celtics. Compared to those two guys, the Celtics' 2 best players I might add, Smart was extremely good at taking care of the ball. In fact, that's an area of his game that has been ever developing since he was drafted by the Celtics in 2014. While his usage rate hasn't necessarily increased a lot year to year, his assist percentage has, while his turnovers have stayed relatively the same. Smart, who came into the league as more of a combo guard with a defensive-minded approach to the game, has slowly but surely refined his offensive skill set to meet the demands of what the Celtics need from him. He is also the heart and soul of that locker room, and by all accounts is one of the Celtics' most vocal leaders.
Come on, Jay, me and you, Jay. Switch it. Get to the bodies, post up. Go, Jay. This isn't the Heat series. We can't start back. You have to start up, especially if they setting it so high. You start up and drop because we're chasing. Now he goes down into the paint. Right there it is. There it is.
So while he may not fit the description of a true point guard when he originally came into the NBA, he is doing a phenomenal job of acting like one now. Being a leader, a floor general, and still effectively helping the Celtics run their offense, all while playing otherworldly defense. It's also worth noting that having a true point guard isn't a prerequisite to winning a championship. By definition, Steph Curry is not a true point guard, more of a score-first guard. Drew Holiday was more of a combo guard for the Bucks in 2021. The last team to win a championship with a true point guard was the Toronto Raptors in 2019 with Lowry at the helm of things. Before that, Jason Kidd with the 2011 Mavericks is probably closest to the definition of a true point guard on a championship team. You don't need that type of player, and you especially don't need Smart to be that player either, regardless of how good he is at playing that role. In that same quote, Smart also alluded to past star point guards that didn't work out in Boston. And while Kemba Walker and Kyrie Irving's tenures with the Celtics were riddled with injuries and controversy, it's hard to say that Smart is wrong. After all, the Celtics may have been better off if they didn't have those two guards dominate possessions and maybe given extra reps to Tatum or Brown to develop their playmaking skills more. And on top of that, for those who still may think the Celtics have a point guard issue, you have to ask yourself, which player is available that is better than Smart? Paul or Lowry are aging and won't be on the market anytime soon, and any player like Damian Lillard or Donovan Mitchell would only take the ball out of Tatum's hands more. It's also safe to say that acquiring those types of players would require you to gut what is a championship level roster. Essentially, that elusive point guard isn't going to magically appear for the Celtics. They've done their best in managing without one, with Smart growing into that role and acquiring Derek White at the trade deadline to serve as another ball handler. Can they maybe add a guy like Rubio or another low-level bench guy to help? Sure. Above all else, the onus is on Tatum and Brown to just become better, more efficient playmakers. Especially Tatum, who has taken a massive leap in that area and will continue to do so as his game evolves and he understands defensive coverages more. So Smart is right. The Celtics don't need another point guard. What they need is for their stars to learn to take better care of the ball. That's it.